very pleased to be joined by my fellow speakers and experts in this topic that is top on board agendas at the moment. We have Sunita Rajakumar and Johan Raslan. Welcome back both. So now we're going to move into the next segment where the rubber hits the road, as we say. I think I can say with some certainty that there is a good proportion of our listeners who are convinced themselves that a diverse board outperforms a homogeneous one. But then when it comes to action, that's tricky then. Many companies still fall short. So from your experience being on boards yourself, how do you think we can translate some of this movement into real practice?
Yes, Judith, research and all that good stuff is one thing, but how Sunita and I think, have seen companies approach this in practice is equally important. I've heard the reasons given by companies and chairmen for having no female directors or only one director. They'll say, oh, there's no qualified women, or the talent pool of women is too small. And, people listen politely because the men saying these things that may be powerful, and maybe the men actually believe this. But when I ask highly qualified women what they think, they just smile. And clearly only half the population believes there aren't enough women, and I'm part of that probably. So what can be done? Well, here in Malaysia, the Prime Minister recently concentrated chairman's mind when he warned that companies with 0 women on board, amongst the top 100, will be named and changed. And in the end, actually, he didn't need to do it because the press did it for him because it's a fairly easy calculation.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Yeah, and they named 7 top 100 listed companies with 0 women on the board. And then yesterday, I happened to be outside the AGM of one of these companies at their annual general meeting, and I spoke to a director, a friend of mine, and he told me that his company would announce that very day, not 1, but 2 women directors. So, it's amazing what can be done when you put your mind to it.
True, yes. I do hope, though, that it wasn't done too hastily, if anything.
Well, I'm sure that he said, I don't know the way ladies, but he said they were really good professionals he was bringing on board. So, he was not forced to do that.
Yeah. But Sunita, what about you? What is your point of view about how we can translate that into action?
Well, in practice, I think boards are increasingly realizing that the most valuable asset in the business is its talent. And this asset walks out of the door every evening. So one of the top priorities of great businesses should be attracting, retaining, motivating, incentivizing their best and brightest. When you have a situation where the best and brightest of university graduates are women, but somehow when they get to middle management, it becomes difficult for them to stay on in the workplace for various reasons, then we absolutely need to focus some attention towards our methods of retaining, motivating, and incentivizing, especially if we are directors who have the best interests of the company at heart. In practice, when you're managing talent, one of the most important priorities has to be providing opportunities to be the best version of yourself. A recent survey on workplace unhappiness attributed 3 main factors: issues with the management and leadership team, lack of opportunities for career development, as well as lack of training opportunities. So we all know about the many initiatives which can make a work-life balance easier to achieve, including flexi work or work from home policies, and we're now being told that these initiatives will also attract high caliber millennials.
Right. So in a way, you kill a few birds with one stone just by having a proper employee-driven policy, I would say, within your organization.
Talent management practice needs to go to the top of the agenda.
Okay. And you both sit on different boards in different companies. So given your exposure to levels of progression in this space, what is your view on the current level of effort in Malaysia today to increase diversity? More or less, what works, what doesn't work? What were the key drivers in most recent years?
Well, for example, I think prescribing quotas alone doesn't work. We're seeing in other countries that the stated target of women directors can be met, but this diversity is not reflected in upper or middle management. So there's a danger that quotas become a short-term achievement. Because if we don't have a strong pipeline of women candidates who are succeeding in businesses, who understand the responsibilities and deep thinking required in decisions, the eventual quality of directors and their decision making will not be optimal. I've been sitting on boards for the last 15 years, and in almost all instances was the only woman director. It's not a lack of trying, but the reality is that for many years there weren't many women ready to be promoted internally. Many did not want the additional responsibilities and liabilities. It is difficult for one voice to influence decisions, and there was no database of potential candidates. So we need to focus on building a pipeline, building a database of qualified candidates who are genuinely interested in business, who would be ready to take on the responsibilities of being ultimately accountable to shareholders about the governance and performance of businesses, i.e. of being ready to be a director. So in my experience, I found that some of the most effective key drivers were, number one, setting the right tone from the top. And this means from the very top, you need to truly respect the value of diverse views and respecting the individuals whom you deal with. Number two, throughout the organization, having a culture which genuinely nurtures and supports a diversity of views. And finally, government support for such initiatives.
So culture built from the top is what I'm getting from you.
Yes, definitely.
Yes. And Johan, your view on what has worked and what hasn't?
Well, just returning to the point on quotas, I wouldn't write off quotas, and in some cases I think they can work. For example, back to the Malaysian government, it said it wanted 30% female directors in government-linked companies. And government-linked companies, or GLCs, are very important in the Malaysian market. And immediately, the GLCs got moving very fast. So I've been watching the announcements, the appointments, and lo and behold, good female directors have been announced, appointed to all these boards. Contrary to what some people expected, I've really not seen any unqualified or badly qualified female directors appointed to the GLC boards here. But then, I do agree with Sunita. Tone from the top, very key. Statements of support for board gender diversity from regulators is really just as powerful as setting quotas. For example, again, in the Malaysian example, the Malaysian Securities Commission Chairman Tan Sri Ranjit Singh recently called for more women on boards when he launched the new Malaysian Code of Corporate Governance back in April 2017. And that's very powerful when the top regulator says that.
So yes, indeed, that will set to change the way people could perceive what tone from the top means as well. Yes. Okay, great. We're going to pause here. You are tuning into the webcast on why board diversity matters. Coming up next, we have the final segment, and we'll cover how companies can overcome some of these challenges faced in pursuing diversity on the top. So stay tuned.